am not a body. I am free. I am not a body. I am free, for I am still as God created me. I want the peace of God. I want the peace of God. I am not a body. I am free, for I am still as God created me. Joy to the world, all the boys and girls. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. Alright, so we're on lesson 205 of, just in case you didn't know, I know everyone knows that song by Three Dog Night. I think it was from back in 71, 72. It was number one, I believe, number one song. All right, lesson 205. I am not a body. I am free. This is review number 6, right? So each of these review lessons starts with I am not a body. I am free, for I am still as God created me. And then today is lesson 185, reviewing lesson 185 from the workbook. I want the peace of God. The peace of God, this is Jesus' commentary, the peace of God is everything I want. The peace of God is my one goal, the aim of all my living here, the end I seek, my purpose and my function and my life while I abide where I'm not at home. Let's read that one more time, okay? The peace of God is everything I want. The peace of God is my one goal, the aim of all my living here, the end I seek, my purpose and my function and my life while I abide where I am not at home. Okay, so we're here in a body, right? I'm a body, you're a body. We're somebody. Most people don't want to be a nobody, right? Everybody wants to be a somebody. And we all, it looks like that's what we are, right? We're a somebody. And Jesus keeps telling us, you're a nobody. You know, the body is a separation. Separation is not real, and the body was made to keep the illusion of separation going indefinitely. Right? The body is part of the illusion of separation, which is the ego's thought system. It is based in this tiny mad idea that it's possible to be separate from God and from each other. In that this is like the impossible dream, right? This is a dream that seems to have happened, but is not real in the ultimate sense. So when I say I want the peace of God, it's to say I want to return to that understanding, to that state of being where I am back at home again. Now, I think the reason why this course can be difficult and is difficult for many people is resistance to this idea of what that even means, right? To be not a body, not a somebody, right? To not be a personality. What does that look like? And what would that, and that doesn't seem fun, and that doesn't seem interesting, because here I am in this world, and this world is exciting. This world has, so much diversity and so much to keep me entertained and interested, but people that have found the course generally have started to see through that illusion, right? That we can find happiness in this world, true happiness, lasting happiness, and that we can find love, right? That we can find an ideal love, because it does not seem to be available in this world. So that's when you start to find something like the course, and you start to listen to what Jesus has to say in the course, right? Or it could be another path, and that's something I want to talk about in a moment here. But for the course starts with this idea that nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists, herein lies the peace of God. And Jesus keeps bringing back the peace of God. And here he says, this lesson is, I want the peace of God. I think it was in this lesson that he said, or maybe it's an earlier lesson, but he said to say these words is one thing, but to mean the words is another thing, right? It's easy to say these things. It's easy to give lip service to this idea that I want the peace of God, but what does that really mean? And if you really are faced with what it really means, would you really want it? Would you still want it? Are you still willing to, what it really means is you're willing to work through all of your fear. You're willing to step into that fire and go beyond your fear. The thing about the Course, though, is that you don't have to step in the fire. You can take it gradually, right? It's a gradual process. It's a gradual, gentle awakening. This is not a rude awakening. This Course is not presenting us with a kick in the face. I'll talk about that too in a second here. like, wake the fuck up. I'm gonna, some kind of rude awakening. Now there are paths that do go there, right, where you can have the rude awakening, and if you're ready for that, maybe that would be right for you. But this path is more of a gradual, slow and steady awakening, a gentle awakening. Let's put it as the opposite of a rude awakening would be a gentle awakening. This is not, that you have to, Jesus is not telling you that you have to do this right away, but he's inviting you, right? He's not forcing it, but he's urging you. He's inviting you strongly, right? But he's also not saying, he understands the fear, right? The fear, our fear is great, right? So, and that's why the Course is so long and involved too. It's if it were that easy, it would just be one sentence. Wake up. It's not that easy for us. It can be, right? It can be very simple and easy, but it usually involves a long and involved process, right? Let's put it that way. So, here in this lesson, Jesus is urging us to make this the central focus of our life, right? Because if we don't make it the central focus, other things will take precedence. Other things in our life, we will get pulled here and there, and our thoughts will not be focused in that one direction where we really want to go, right? We really want the peace of God, and when we have the peace of God, as we get, let's say, closer and closer to the peace of God, we will see how everything will flow from that, right? And we tend to do it the other way. We tend to think that if I just have this or have that or do this or do that, then I'll be happy. But Jesus is saying, no, you will be happy when you do this process, right? You do this practice, do this process, go on this journey of finding your true self, right? And finding your true self, it is finding the peace of God. So let's go, what I thought we'd do here is read the very beginning, right, of the Course once again. It's worth going back to it time and again, or memorizing it. I have not memorized it, but I've more or less know it by heart. But here's the introduction. Keep in mind that this is not what Helen Schuckman originally heard. This was not the first words that she heard from Jesus, right? Jesus actually started with the first miracle principle. He said something like, the first thing to know about miracles is that there's no order of difficulty in miracles. And Helen's like, what? What does that mean? So then this introduction was brought together later. Okay, but but this introduction is classic, right? This, even though it wasn't the first thing that Helen actually heard. Actually, one of the first things she heard was, "This is a Course in Miracles. Please take notes." Right, like a professor, talking to his class or her class, saying, Jesus the professor saying, "All right, class, this is a Course in Miracles. Please take notes. Get out your notebooks. Please take notes." And Helen did. She did take notes, right? So this is a Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. This course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way: nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. Remember the peace of God, right? I want the peace of God. This is today's lesson. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. Now, if you understand that and you really grok that, or you really fully understand that, you don't need the rest of the course, right? The whole course is summed up in that one statement: nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. If you really already understand that, and you understand that only the ego can be threatened, and that the ego is totally unreal, and the peace of God is really all there is, then you don't need the rest of the course. But let's go back and let's talk about what is said here. This is a Course in Miracles. It is a required course. All right, so this originally actually was kind of a joke. You could say an inside joke, because Helen was very reluctant and resistant, as we all are, right? But she was especially resistant, and she said to Jesus something like, "Do I really have to do this?" And Jesus said, "This is a required course." And so this found its way here, right? So Jesus said, this is not an elective, right? In college, you have electives, right? Things that you can elect to take. He said, no, this is not an elective. You have to take this. Now, does that mean that everyone is going to take A Course in Miracles? Specifically, A Course in Miracles? No, it does not. Here's why. Because this is all about removing the blocks to love's presence. And there are other ways you can do that, right? This is not the only way. There are other paths. So let's read something in the manual. This is just one thing that we could read, but let's read this one part. And this is from the Manual for Teachers Who Are God's Teachers. And it's paragraph 4, and it says, this is a manual for a special curriculum. So that special curriculum is the course, right? The Manual for Teachers. This is a manual. The Manual for Teachers is a manual for a special curriculum, intended for teachers of a special form of the universal course. There are many thousands of other forms, all with the same outcome. They merely save time. So this is to say that there are other forms of this universal course. What is the universal course that Jesus is talking about? He's talking about the release from fear and the return to love. And now this is universal. This is a universal, right? On the other side of fear is love eternal, our true nature, our true reality. There are many religions, there are many spiritual paths, and any one of them, if they're valid, can take you there. This is why the Course is not a religion per se. This is a universal spiritual teaching. This is not, and and I don't want to offend anyone by saying that, but this is not Christianity. This is a Christ-centered form that's similar to Christianity, and definitely harkens back to Christ's teachings in the Gospels, but is more of a universal spiritual methodology, right? And you do not have to even, if Christ and Jesus are just symbols. The Son of God is a symbol. Even to say God the Father is a symbol. Even to use the word God is a symbol, because God is just a word. God is a concept. What Jesus really wants us to bring us to is to the experience of what that is, not the word itself, because the word, it can mean anything. We could debate about that. We could debate about what God is. We could argue and fight about it. But what it is a universal reality, right? It's a universal experience. So this course is a special form of the universal curriculum, is what Jesus says in the manual. He's trying to clarify, right? He's clarifying, because when the manual for teachers came, there were already arguments, right? There were already debates about what does it mean it's a required course. Does that mean that everyone has to take a Course in Miracles to go home, right? Does it mean that everyone must do this, otherwise they won't go home? No. This course is only going to be for certain people, right? Who need this specific form of the universal curriculum. So I hope that makes sense. The other point, my brother and I were having a back and forth about this due to my last video from yesterday. I'm going to say more about that in a second. But the other thing I want to say here is that the other thing that comes up is A Course in Miracles getting at non-duality, or is there still duality? Right? Is it pointing to a non-dual reality, ultimate reality, or is reality still dual in some regards? Meaning that there's still a Father and there's still a Son in the ultimate sense, right? And this definitely is open to question, and you'd be hard pressed to really make it a case either way, I think, because Jesus is not that clear about what it is. But I will say this, that he does say, that in eternity the Son is singing the song to the Father, singing the song to the Son, and the Son is singing the song to the Father, and yet there are other passages where Jesus indicates, maybe we can go to one of those passages where Jesus indicates that ultimately the Son disappears into the Father and the Father into the Son, meaning that these are just symbols and the ultimate reality is only one, right? There can only be one reality, right? And even to have a distinction between the Father and the Son is still separation. But then you could ask, well, then how did the illusion happen at all? Right? How did the Son have the dream if there is no Son in reality? It's a great question, right? But keep in mind that this didn't happen. Right? It's a dream that seems to have happened, right? So it's the ego that wants that to be true, right? On some level, that the Son is separate from the Father, but the Son is not separate from the Father. This is all mind-blowing, if you really go deep into it, right? And it's not an easy for us to grasp what it is. Let's read what's one thing. Okay. This one passage in Workbook Lesson 169 where it says, we cannot speak, oneness is simply the idea God is, and in his being he encompasses all things. No mind holds anything but him. We say God is, and then we cease to speak, for in that knowledge words are meaningless. There's not even, ultimately, even God are just words, right? There are no lips to speak them, and no part of mind sufficiently distinct to feel that it is now aware of something not itself. There's no body anymore, right? There's no lips. There's no thoughts. There's no words. There's no ideas. There's no concepts. It is united with its source, and like its source itself, it merely is. Paragraph 6. We cannot speak nor write nor even think of this at all. It comes to every mind when total recognition that its will is God's has been completely given and received completely. It returns the mind into the endless present, where the past and future cannot be conceived. It lies beyond salvation, past all thought of time, forgiveness, and the holy face of Christ. Right? So it goes beyond salvation, it goes even beyond the holy face of Christ. The Son of God has merely disappeared into his Father, as his Father has in him. The world has never been at all. Eternity remains a constant state, right? Eternity has always been, and has always been constant and has never changed. The Son and the Father have disappeared into each other. That's not something that we can understand from where we are, because we still think in terms of subject and object, right? There's a me and there's a you. There's a son, there's a father. But this one reality goes beyond that subject and object. So that's another thing I wanted to say. I think it's important to clarify this. This is not about being right. My brother said, would you rather be right or happy? Well, this is not about being right. This is about what is the Course really saying, and if you want to bring what you feel it's saying, I will always listen, right? I'm open, that's partly why I'm doing this. I think, also why I'm doing this is I want to be truly helpful. I want to be of service. And for those who are willing to listen, I do feel that I'm approaching this from a place of respect and honor, not only of the Course, but of you as well. And that I want to get clear about what this is saying. And I don't want to focus on specific things and forget about other things that are being said, like this thing about the Son disappearing into the Father and the Father disappearing into the Son. I think that needs to be addressed, right? We can bring in other things that Jesus says, that seem to say otherwise, but the fact that he says that he hints at non-duality sometimes, I think we need to bring that into the discussion, right? We can't just say, well, let's leave that aside and let's focus on this other thing. No, let's focus on all of it, right? Right? Let's not leave those things that seem to suggest something else out of the picture, right? Because I think Jesus, if anything, Jesus meant for his Course to be read and understood, right? Not to pick and choose what you like, but this you got to go all the way with this. Going all the way with the Course means that you really try to understand it on its own terms and not on your terms. So I wanted to also bring in one last thing, which is that the brother that I was having the other brother that I was having a back and forth with on Facebook, and what he said to me, he said that, he'd like for me to be, after this life, to be with Krishna, with him and Krishna. He wants to know me after this life in Krishna's realm. And I said, well, why don't you ask me if that's what I want? Because I don't know if I'm not convinced that that's really the ultimate, And he first said, well, that is the ultimate. But then what he said next was kind of more along the lines of Course in Miracles, which is to get at that this is a universal, right? And that I do understand, and that I do respect, and I think is more correct, right? Right? To say we're talking about a universal, right? This is going beyond the body, going beyond fear, and finding the ultimate truth of existence, right? That's what we're talking about here. And that goes beyond any specific form, religious or spiritual form, right? This is, well, let's not say spiritual, but let's say religious dogma or doctrine or form. We're talking about a universal that applies to everyone, not just some people. So he started to say that, but then the next thing he did was he sang me a little song about how kindness sometimes requires you to kick someone in the face. And I was like, what? and I said, well, I basically said to him, well, you lost me there, because I don't think you need to kick anyone in the face. Although, let me just say this. Remember, I was saying that some spiritual traditions or some paths do go by the rude awakening, right? And that does work sometimes. And how does it work? It works, for example, in the guru-disciple relationship. If the disciple really says to the guru, I am yours. I will listen to anything you tell me. I am going to do anything you tell me to do. Right? That then it would work, because the disciple has given their assent to the teacher and said, you can do anything, right? I want to learn. I want to, wake me up. Wake me the fuck up if you want, And so if the guru then kicks the disciple in the face, that would work, right? Because the disciple has said, Guru, you could do anything, right? I'm open to it. That's I think that is valid, right? That I wouldn't necessarily choose that path, but some do, and that works maybe for some people, right? Because there is ultimately, if the guru kicks their disciple, we would like to think that the guru is really in a place does that absolutely from a place of love and wanting to help the disciple and not to hurt the disciple, or the guru does not have some inner angst that they're working out by kicking their disciple, right? They're not just get upset and kick their disciple. And so then my friend said, well, what I was singing to you really was, I can understand how you were offended, but what I was really just singing about the story where the from my tradition, the Krishna, the ISKCON tradition, which goes back to Chaitanya but goes further back as well, where the guru kicks their disciple, right? And the disciple says, "Thank you, Guru, for kicking me." That would work if I had, if I were accepting my friend, for example, as my guru, and my friend was going to kick me or put me down, then I would say yes, thank you. But I had not. We didn't have that understanding, so that was at that point. I said, well, thank you, but I'm not sure if I want to continue with this connection, because because feeling that we're not seeing eye to eye here. Now, did I have to do that? No, I didn't have to do that, but I was trying to make a point, and maybe he would understand that point. Maybe he wouldn't. The only thing that I can do is not be attached to the situation, right? I'm not going to convince my friend unless he wants. Maybe he will take what I said to heart and work with it. Maybe not, or maybe the lesson is really for me. Maybe I need to see something there, and I need to let go of wanting anyone to change, right? Because I think that's our biggest hang-up is we want people to see things the way we see things. We want people to change the way we think they should change. But everyone is on their own journey, and everyone is on their own path. So I think that's ultimately the lesson there is complete acceptance of our brother, right? Not thinking that our brother needs to change or anything needs to change, but we could always ask in any situation, if we get upset in any way, we can say, well, what do I need to learn from this? It's not not making it their problem, but what do I need to see in this situation? Where am I resisting the simple truth, right? Where am I not accepting the present moment? So I hope this is helpful a little bit. This is the ongoing resurrection of the Son of God, which is all of us, right? We're all waking up. We're waking up together, and I see these videos that I'm doing as inviting whoever's willing to listen into this process of awakening with me, and totally in a place of love and acceptance and not judgment, right? If I ever sound judgmental, I do not mean to be, because ultimately I think non-judgment is really what it is, right? Love is the absence of judgment, as the Dalai Lama said, right? I don't know, joy to the world again. I am not a body, I am free, for I'm still as God created me, still as God created me. I want the peace of God, I want the peace of God. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. Bum, bum, bum. See you there. Keep the faith.